Hey guys, thatguyshun.com. I'm with a very cool female. Whoa. A cool human being, a cool person. Linden Clark. What's up, Linden?
Oh, not too much. Just still kicking over Canada.
Yeah, you're in Canada right now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in South Korea. We know each other originally from Canada, but we've also chilled together in South Korea.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy actually how that ended up happening.
What do you mean?
We didn't even really hang out in high school.
Yeah, well, that's so crazy because I was like, I want to talk about that. That's what I was thinking for the podcast, but I'm like, that's not acceptable. Well, here's my first question. I think is kind of for the whole podcast for you. Is being cool and living a really different life, was that you being brave, or do you think that chose you and you had no choice?
Ooh, I think it chose me.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't think I'm that brave. I just had no choice. I get to, like, the normal life, it like that scares me more.
Right.
You know, like that freaks me out. So.
Right. Yeah, we talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have lots of talks about that. Yeah, so in high school, I always thought, oh, this is such a cool person. Like what a cool person Linden is, right? Well, I don't know. Well, how was high school for you?
High school wasn't, I hated high school actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I always felt like very outcast, I guess. I was always like on the fringe. Even amongst my group of friends, I always felt like a little bit of a black sheep.
Okay.
Which carried on throughout my entire life, and I've just kind of accepted that that's who I am. Like it's hard for me to get like a full connection with someone.
Right.
Like, so that leaves you always feeling kind of like you're not actually a part of anything.
Right. So do you feel like your tribe, you always had to find other black sheep?
Yeah, that I really thought about, but absolutely.
Right. Okay, cool.
All my friends are weird.
Right. Yeah. That's so cool. There's this really good book by this guy, Seth Godin, and he wrote a book called Tribes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I had that realization like 6 months ago. I was like, I got to find my tribe. And I was like writing down people I'm close with. And I was like, my tribe are weird people.
Yes.
Always. So that's cool. Okay. And then we kind of lost track of each other for a while. At least, I don't know, there's a gap.
Oh, yeah.
So you did high school. And then what did you do after that?
Well, then I went to college for a couple of years, but I dropped out.
Good.
And just played games for like a year straight.
No way. Okay, cool.
I dropped out, but I didn't tell my parents I dropped out, so they thought I was still going to college. I would pretend to go, but then I would just go to my friend's house and play video games. But, they eventually found out. But then I ended up going back. I was like, okay, like I worked for like a year and then I went to university. I'm like, hey, I don't know. I just felt like going to university. I was like, it wasn't even really like, oh, I want to go to get a job. It was more just like, I wanted to see if I could do it.
Okay. So when you say college though, do you mean like university or like college?
College, like Mohawk College, like college.
Okay, cool. And then
for chemical engineering.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So random.
I failed.
It's so unfair. Like our system is so unfair that they'd send us there when we're like 19. Like, where do you want to study? Yeah. I don't even know.
Yeah, I just like read the book. I'm like, that sounds cool.
I know. They're like, okay, this will be the next 80 years. Okay, cool. I don't know who I am. Right. Okay, so okay. And then, but that's so dope. You went to university. Where did you go?
I went to Brock.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
And then was that 3 years or 4 years or?
4. I did 4 years.
How did
I'm
that go?
at 3, but I said.
Yeah, everybody, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, oh, this is tough. The 4th year was just was mental, like muscle memory. I was like, "Bah, bah, bah." I don't know, like somehow I graduated.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow.
I don't know how.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm not gonna get. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, how did you find university time?
It was good. Like, I mean, again, I hated it. I think I just hate being in school. Like, it's not like I hate learning. I just hate being forced to do things, I think.
Right.
So that, I always just wanted to get out, like get in and get out. But like overall, it was like a good experience. Like it was fun. I had like times.
Yeah. Same. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And then Linden's out in the world. And so like a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, and like I'm probably going to put in the title, right? That you do jiu-jitsu and you've like gone to different competitions, right? And that's really that's super cool. A lot of my good friends are into jiu-jitsu.
That makes sense. It's for weird people.
Yeah, okay, we'll get more into that in a second. So then I want to do a little more Linden timeline. So then and then you were in Korea as well. We met in Korea. But before that, was there any other interesting things that came up?
No, not really. Like that was more like my dark times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, they were very dark days. I guess I can just tell you.
Yeah.
Dark days, right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's everybody knows. Like at this point in our society, everyone knows what dark days are. Okay, cool. But you got through it, is what we mean.
Yeah. Okay. Then cool. I escaped.
You escaped the dark days. Yeah. I mean, that's a triumph in itself for sure. Okay, so then you ended up coming over to South Korea. How did that happen?
So I always like wanted to teach abroad. Like that was kind of my plan. That's why I took linguistics. I was like, okay, cool. I'll like be a teacher. I can go teach anywhere, wherever. I'll get my TESOL and all.
Right.
And then so eventually I was just in my dark days and I was like, you know what? I'm out of here. Like I'm doing this.
Right.
So I just started applying, like found a job that I liked and like, I took that job and then I actually took off and I went and traveled in Europe and then I came back and then I remember being in Barcelona and being like, I don't want to go to Korea anymore. I want to stay here forever. It's awesome. Right. But I'm like, no, I'm going. Like, that's my plan. And then I ended up in Korea.
And so, and I saw you when you were in Korea and you had like the perfect crew. Like they seemed like the great group for you.
It really was. Like, I feel like it was like a golden era.
Right.
Like, it was perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool visiting you. Now, like I was in Seoul, right? Yeah. Or like near Seoul. I've always been around there. And then but you were in Busan.
Yep.
Which is like completely different vibes.
Completely different vibe. Like I feel like Busan's way more chill.
Yeah. Totally.
Like hippie-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that's so funny. And yeah, you're a dope crew. And so like, did people tell you like, don't go, Linden, don't go abroad? You're like, you're a girl, you shouldn't go alone.
I feel like I definitely got that a lot of people just being like, oh, well, who are you going with? I'm like I'm going by myself. Like I'm an adult human. I can do that. Right. But I think like mostly people were like, oh, that's like pretty cool. My supportive, not my extended family, they're like, what do you want to go there for?
Yeah.
But overall, I think like people are usually like mostly just kind of like, that's really cool. Like, I wish I could do something like that. I'm like, you can, like, you just have to go. Like, it's pretty straightforward.
Right. And then do you feel like being over there gave you like an extra, I don't know, did it like make you a little bit tougher, a little bit more independent?
For sure. Yeah. Oh man, like I feel like even going for a short time like changes you forever.
Right.
Like, you just have like this whole different side to you. And I feel like that's often why it's really tough to come back, because you kind of feel super displaced. Like you're like, I don't fit in here. I don't fit in there. Like I don't really fit in anywhere, which I guess goes along with my whole life.
Right.
Theme of not fitting in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was amazing. it definitely changed me. I mean, yeah, you feel more independent. I guess you're like super far away and you're kind of just like, well, this is happening. I don't really have a choice. This like, I'm just going to go through with this. Like I remember my first day teaching and I went to the wrong classroom by accident, I guess, and I taught the wrong class. And then my boss's wife came in and was just like yelling at me in Korean. And there was someone just standing there like translating for her. And I was just like super jet lagged still. I like had no idea what was going on. I'm like, oh, okay. And then after they left, everyone's like, oh, like, are you okay, Linden? And I was like, yeah, like, I'm fine. Like, wow, you're going to do fine here. Whatever. Like, you just kind of go with the flow. You're in like a dream world, right? So it's not the same as just getting like reamed out at home.
Right. Yeah, totally. That's funny. So okay. When did you get into jiu-jitsu?
In Korea.
In Korea. Was it the
Yeah.
that goes together so well. It's like this woman yelled at me. It's like, so then I got into mixed martial arts.
Yeah. Like why? How? I've never done sport in my life.
How did that happen?
So that one, like, I feel like that was a long time coming. Like it was always there waiting for me because like before I left, it was way back when like podcasts had first started and Joe Rogan had first started his podcast. So I was listening to his podcast and this other guy's podcast who just happened to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And both would talk about it in the same way of just like how, you know, how it's for everyone should train jiu-jitsu and they're so passionate about it. And I think like, I just wanted to be that passionate about something. So I just kind of like had it in my head, like, oh, this like weird jiu-jitsu dream, right? So then when I went to Europe, I ended up messaging the guy who did the podcast. And I was just like, hey, I'm coming. He lived in England. And I was just like, hey, I'm coming to London. Like, do you have any suggestions of places to go? Like, I really like your podcast or something like ridiculous. And then he's like, oh, like I can show you around. I was like, perfect. Like that was obviously my whole plan.
Sneaky.
So I hung out with him for like a couple days and like, just like, even the way he would talk about it, he'd be like, oh, I got to go train. Like you're hanging out with someone you just met and you just leave to go train. And again, I was like, wow, like so much like passion and dedication to this like one sport. It's like, it's definitely a cult sport. Like you get obsessed with it, right?
Right.
So then again, it's in my head. I was like, like this jiu-jitsu thing. And then in Korea, I ended up meeting two people who train jiu-jitsu. So I'm like, hey, like, can you take me to the gym? Like, I want to try it. So I went. First time I went, I didn't like participate. I just kind of watched and then I didn't go back for like 3 months.
Interesting.
Because it's like super scary, especially in Korea. It's probably a little bit like more mixed now, but at the time, like there's no girls there.
Right.
Like, it's just you showing up. Like it's very intimidating, right? It's intimidating even if there is girls there. And so I ended up going with another girl who was just another like teacher friend that I knew. So we went together. And this is literally what happened. So we go into the gym.
Yeah.
It's all in Korean, like the whole thing's in Korean. I don't speak Korean. I have no idea what's going on. I'm just like running around the gym. And then he makes a circle with everyone sat in a circle, puts two guys in the middle, and then puts us in the middle and tells us to just attack them. It was just like for their own enjoyment.
Right.
So we're like, we just like dive on these guys.
So we did. Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I got choked out like so quickly, but from that point on, I became like fully obsessed, and I would go like I would go before work 5 times a week. Like I did not miss training ever.
Oh.
And when I came home, I just like found a gym that I liked, and same thing has been going on for the past 6 years now.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. And then you got more serious about it when you were back home.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then what is it like the different, like in Canada, it seems like, because I see your Instagram and different pictures, and it seems like the group is like very like intense and focused, and you have some big names that come through sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason I ended up at this gym, because we're affiliated with the debatably best guys in the world. So I was just like, okay, well, I know their names, so I'll go to this gym. Like I didn't, really have any other reason to go there. But then like the guy who owns that gym, like the professor there was just, he's like the best guy in the world. Like one of my favorite people I've ever met. And the way, like his vibe of that gym, just the whole way that gym was, the type of people it attracted was just perfect for me. So I just ended up staying there. And like, I never even dreamed really of like, oh, looking for another gym or anything. I would try other gyms now and again, like for fun, but that's like my home, you know?
Yeah, that's so cool. And then, so we started hanging out again. And I remember you were doing competitions.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's so wild.
That's like probably like the scariest thing I've ever done, I think.
Yeah.
That's
like,
yeah.
It's crazy because how do you go from like you just walked into a gym like, hey, what is this? And then like a couple years later, you're like, I'm gonna fight you until one of us tap.
I know. I never thought I would compete either. Like I didn't really, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna do it for fun. Like I don't want to compete. That looks like that's for like the really serious people. And then like 8 months in, I'm like, I think I'm ready.
Okay.
But I feel like everyone should compete. That's another thing that will change you forever as well.
Yeah.
It's a pretty intense thing to be standing in front of someone and just, you know, obviously it's not the same as MMA where you're like actually beating each other up, but still like it's just you versus one other person and you're trying to hurt each other first. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty intense situation.
It seems super intense from what you told me. Yeah. So, and then you went down to the States for those competitions, no? Some of them?
Oh yeah, I went to Vegas. Yeah, that was
That's wild. Like America is even a bigger beast. You're like, you went to America? You're like, good God.
yeah, and that's where the elite gyms are. So you get all the top dogs there.
Right.
Tough. I was not ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like the American culture too is like a tougher culture.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like they're raised
Yeah.
at a young age to be like, do you know what I mean? Like,
And they're big into wrestling, right? Like that's like a popular thing, wrestling, football, like just those more contact sports. It's more popular down there. So I feel like everyone's kind of got a little bit of a grappling background.
interesting. Yeah, good point. Good point. And then, okay, but what is it like to fight with someone else? Was it
It's like the most anxiety you could possibly feel without dying.
oh, that's a great answer. Go on.
So every time I get there, I've learned to change that anxiety into like to take it as a good thing. Because normally you feel anxiety and it's a negative feeling.
Yeah.
Now get that anxiety, I'm like, well, this is a good thing. I'm about to compete. Like, that's awesome. I'm glad I feel like this. Like, I'm pumped instead of it being like, I'm afraid. You know, like you have to switch how you take your emotion, I guess, in a way, because there's no way you're ever not nervous. Everyone's nervous, right? But you walk in there and it's just like anxiety through the roof. And then it kind of goes down and you're just exhausted waiting for your division to come up. So there's a lot of like, just like laying there, sleeping, trying to kind of just chill out before it's actually your time to go, because the anxiety is just a roller coaster, right? So you're just exhausted by the time you actually have to go out there.
Right. And then like, I know like for me, like I've been in lots of fist fights and that's great because like your adrenaline or you're so angry and then you fight, but I can't imagine waiting for an organized fight with another person.
Yeah. It's hard to control the anxiety before so that you're not exhausted.
Right.
That I think is one of the hardest things about it. If you're not right away, which usually there's a lot of waiting around at these tournaments. Like you could be waiting for hours.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I would want to hate the person. I need to build up a story around them.
Yeah. You know, that is actually kind of something that you have to do in a way, because often you'll see girls that, you know, everyone's in the same circuit. We see each other all the time. So it's someone that you know. So I don't like talking to them before the match happens. After, like, I'm happy to talk and chat, but I hate talking before because now I'm like feeling friendly towards you. I don't want to feel that.
Yeah.
So I always like have my headphones on, a hoodie up, and I'm just like, no one talk to me. Like, it's like looking down, ignoring everyone. And I feel like the more you compete, everyone that's in the circuit kind of does the same thing, because no one wants to talk to each other first.
And what are you listening to?
Oh, that changes, I think. It's not always the same. Sometimes it's more like calming music, not necessarily like pump up music.
Mhm.
Sometimes I could even listen to something like Radiohead.
Oh, wow.
You know, something that's more chill.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why. I like out to depressing music.
Yeah. Well, whatever that's your chemistry, it makes sense to you, right?
Yeah.
I'd want to invite my opponent to a big social gathering the night before, and I'd want them to snub me in front of everyone. Because nothing enrages me more than when someone does that. I go, hey, I'll be like, I'm gonna kill that person.
Yeah. I'm gonna kill that guy tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. How could he do that? Because I'll hold on to that stuff for years if someone does that to me. I'm like, I was telling a story.
He cut me off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
To kill him and his family. Okay. Yeah, so what is it afterwards? How does it feel?
Oh, that's a weird thing too. Like I'll often cry no matter what happened.
It's like an emotional release, maybe?
I think so. Yeah, because it's not like I'm actually sad or anything, but usually there's some tears.
Yeah.
And if I win, it's like I feel, I don't know, it's kind of like an overload. Exactly. So I'll feel super pumped if I win and I'll feel really good. And then that will lead to like a steep depression right after, like a couple hours later, once all the happiness is gone. And then you start getting in more weird thoughts of just like, well, that's like ridiculous. Like, why am I even, I don't know. You get these weird thoughts in your head. Like why am I here? I shouldn't be doing this. Like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if I get those thoughts.
Yeah.
That's me, but that's what happens usually after.
Right. Well, you're a person that like pushes themselves. So it feels like whenever you push yourself, you get these new weird thoughts that enter all the time. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I am. It cut out there for a second.
Okay. Yeah, so okay, that's awesome. I think that's really cool that you do jiu-jitsu, and I think it's encouraging. A lot of other girls should definitely get into it. I'm sure you wish you got into it in high school.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
I really do, because there's no way to, that's another thing that jiu-jitsu does. Like it does bring you up for sure, but at the same time, you realize that sometimes in life, your best isn't enough.
Right.
I'm never going to be the top dog. I started too old. I'm not, I just don't have the right skills. I also don't train hard enough. You have to train like 2-3 times a day. That has to be your whole life. So yeah, sometimes my best is just not enough, and you have to just be okay with, well, this is just who I am, and I've come this far in my journey, and that's my journey, and it's still awesome because I've still come all this way.
Right.
But yeah, definitely. Everyone wishes they could have started younger. Like when you train with the kids in high school, like they smash you, and they're young, absolutely destroy you.
Yeah. You mentioned, yeah, we've talked about that before. And so it seems like even like physical, like I just feel like even in our community, like being physical was not a priority.
No.
That's not putting anyone down. I feel like it's just cultural.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it is really hard to be really good at a sport. I think, even if you're really talented, if you don't work super hard, there's always going to be someone that's going to beat you.
Right. So it's super humbling at the same time.
Oh yeah, very humbling.
Right. I think the more you go out into the world, and both of us have definitely done that, and you're trying things, you come to realize like you're wanting. You find out in ways, right? Like you're not where you thought you were in your head, because there's a story you tell yourself, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm not the best.
Wait a second.
Right. It keeps happening. I'm like, what?
I thought it was.
Yeah, it's so glaring. Yeah. Okay. So the last thing I want to talk about is also like, and you've always had cool jobs, or I feel like you've had cool positions, or you've set your life up in a very cool way constantly. Whenever we're meeting after a couple of years, I'm always like, got a good setup again.
Right. I do like to have comfy, good setups. That is
you have a good setup and a good lifestyle setup too. Good people.
Right.
Good. It's a good setup. You're like a cool squirrel, just putting everything into different things. You're like, eh.
I am like a squirrel. That's very true. And I love squirrels.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a spirit animal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Squirrels and sloths.
But sloths are cool. Okay. They seem like they're from another planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're bizarre.
And they're like a live hammock. And I really love hammocks. But their whole body is a hammock.
Have you seen the YouTube video where like the eagle comes down to try to get the sloth? Sloth's like, get away. It's like training it. One time,
No.
one video, the eagle gives up, and the other video, it carries the sloth away.
Oh, poor little sloth.
Yeah, not to put us in a downer, but it did happen.
Yeah.
Like,
No, screw the sloth.
that's just off. Do you find like you're just lucky, or do you like work really hard at?
Maybe it's a combination.
Yeah.
Because I think it's one of those things where you just meet people and it leads to things. Like even this job that I have right now. So I got this job pretty much through my friend's sister, and my friend, someone I met in Korea. So Jessica, remember Jessica?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are obviously both from Hamilton as well. And we met in Korea and then came back. And then she ended up suggesting, like she was working doing recruiting, and she was like, hey, like there's an opening. It's remote, whatever. And I was like, well, I want to work remotely. Perfect. So I started working there. And then her sister was actually doing the job I have now, and she was quitting. So she was like, hey, do you think Linden would want this job? I can recommend her. And I was like, absolutely. Like, that's perfect. Like,
yeah.
You know, national teachers, it's still kind of in an international world and it's fully remote.
Right.
And so I ended up, you know, she recommended me and I spoke with my boss and everything was good from there. So I feel like it's just kind of knowing people and just being, I guess, being like a go with the flow type of person, right? I'm just like, sure, do that.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, you are kind of go with the flow, and that's kind of jujitsu as well, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, definitely.
And you never seem to get really angry, but you do.
Yeah, I don't get angry very often. What's that?
I said you do sometimes. And then
sometimes I do.
Yeah, but I think it's very rare, and it's at the very end, and it's kind of like jujitsu. All of a sudden, you're in a headlock.
Yeah.
That's
that is my life basically.
Right. How did we get here? Okay.
Like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Should have said something sooner.
but I think that's so smart, because it does seem like there must be a lot of people around you that just like to be around you, like your company. Because you're always I think so. I must, right?
Yeah.
And so you're working remotely. I mean, that was pretty lucky when the COVID thing came.
Yeah, because it didn't. Well, I did end up getting laid off for 5 months, but it was actually awesome. Like, it was probably the best 5 months of my life.
Right.
It was amazing.
What did you do at that time?
Like, I thought that I was going to be so productive. I'm like, I'm going to get abs. I'm going to be able to do 20 pull-ups in a row. Like, it's going to be amazing. And then I just like ate and drank for 5 months straight. I have no new skills at all.
Wow, that sounds great though. Was it good?
It was amazing because it was through summer. I was just going to cottages and just hanging out. And I cooked a lot though. That was fun. Yeah. I can cook delicious foods.
I think a lot of people said like it was good just to have a little bit of a rest.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Your mind just fully resets, but it makes you feel like, wow, we're really just spending our lives working. Like that's our. It's kind of depressing. I try not to think too much now that I'm working again, but I never want to work as much as I did before. Because at the time I was working 5 days a week doing recruiting. Then I was working at the bar 1 to 2 times on the weekend. I was going to jiu-jitsu 4 times a week. It was just, I'm like, I don't even know how I did that. Now I can barely do one thing in a day. I'm like, oh, I'm going to the grocery store. Like, that's it for me for the day. So,
right.
It was too much.
Okay.
I was for sure. So it was a good break for me.
Yeah. So would you say also, like, we're both going into our we're going into our 30s. We're very much in our 30s.
No.
What at that point though, right? And you're still doing your thing, your life. Do you think like the balance is important?
Very important. I know when you posted that thing about rest the other day, I'm like, I think that is so important. I feel like that's a big reason why I had my midlife crisis last month.
Right.
I like wasn't balanced enough. And now that I'm like, okay, I have to stop working, 7 p.m. is like my cutoff no matter what. I'll take like a walk during the day. I'll take an actual full lunch, not when we're just eating and still on your laptop. And, you're not, your brain is never resting then. So now I feel like I'm way more productive working less hours.
Yeah. Also, like, I also find like this, that thing I posted this weekend, I just slept, right, and rested.
Nice.
And then like on Monday when I meet people, I'm like, hey, I don't hate you.
Yeah.
You're feeling.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, I'm well rested.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I just sleep the whole weekend and don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And I can't do that every weekend, but maybe sometimes I might need to, right?
Yep.
Okay. And it's crazy because like neither of us, I mean, I don't think either of us are like in a long-term relationship right now, or we don't have kids.
No kids.
Right. And so like, I don't know how they do it though, people with kids.
I honestly don't know. I feel like it's instinct because you have no choice.
Right. Yeah. It'll die.
Yeah.
You just become you're literally a
die.
kangaroo at that point. You're like, I have to feed it. Do animals abandon their children ever? Does that happen? I think that does happen and sometimes.
Animals?
Yeah, just abandon their children just out of lifestyle choices.
Ooh. Wow. I feel like a panda would do that.
Right? Or just like, I don't know, like a raccoon just goes, no, I'm not.
Yeah, it's like, nah, I'm good.
He just goes to another city. And then some other raccoons find the babies and they're like, we got to raise them.
Yeah. Get adopted. There's tons of other parent raccoons out there.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, I just won't get in another relationship. That will be what I promised myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Any,
even relationships,
what's that?
Relationships are just as exhausting. People, I think during the COVID time who are with people, a lot of people got divorced or broke up.
Yeah, I heard there was a law like in Russia, I think maybe in China there, like the divorce courts just shut down. They're like, we're not getting any more divorces. No, you're not doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sucks. If you're all of a sudden you're like, we have all this time together and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't like you.
Yeah.
I'd get divorced too. Screw
yeah.
it.
Well, right. That would be before COVID happened. There's a COVID. So is there any like going forward? Like, I don't know, is there future goals? Is there?
I have future goals for sure. I would really like to learn Spanish.
Oh yeah.
I've been attempting to learn it for so long. So, I mean, I guess this isn't some like grand goal, but I really just want to live in Mexico and learn Spanish.
Right.
I keep trying to get there. My flights keep getting canceled.
One of my buddies here, he just does Jiu Jitsu and is practicing Spanish, and he just wants to live in Mexico.
What?
Yeah, you guys have to connect.
That's insane. He probably wants to go to the same place I'm going to because there's a gym on the beach.
I've got like 3 or 4 friends and they're all like, I'm going to go to Mexico soon. They're all like, it's just like these people around me all do Spanish and go to Mexico.
Wow.
Jiu-jitsu.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Learn how to surf.
The universe is trying to tell me something. The universe is like, jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, I'm going to surf.
Yeah. You're totally going to show up there.
Right. I'm like, hey, you guys.
Yeah. Like, we've been waiting.
Okay, cool. Hey, what advice would you give to any young girls in high school that also feel like a black sheep?
Ooh, that's a good one. I guess like not to change yourself, that's pretty cliche, but just do your thing. Eventually you'll find the spot that makes you feel less like a black sheep. And even if you don't, even if you're a black sheep forever, like that's cool too. Some people are just lone wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Just appreciate who you are. And sometimes it's better to not be the one that fits in.
Right.
The rest is kind of boring to just kind of always be in with the crowd. You're just like, are you really that exciting if you get along with everybody?
Right. And then when did you start to really accept and love yourself, you think? Was there a time?
Ooh, that one, not till I was quite a bit older. That probably started happening in Korea, actually.
Interesting. Why do you think that happened then?
I think because I separated from everything that was keeping me down in my life. Like I cut out toxic people and just, I went to this new place and I was like, hey, like I was making friends again. And I was like, oh, like I'm okay. Like I'm not a terrible person. I'm a good being. And I started a lot of kind of self-talk. I started changing how I talk to myself. And I really made like a conscious effort to say good things to myself, which sounds like super weird to do. But if you can't look in the mirror and tell yourself good things about yourself without feeling weird, you probably don't feel those things. And it was hard. Like I remember crying, trying to say like, you're beautiful. I would cry.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But you have to change how you talk to yourself. I think that's super important.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, I hope one day too, like you even get, I mean, I guess you do get a chance to work with younger girls in jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. That's great.
Definitely. Yeah, which is cool. It is cool. It's a good connection.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I think that was awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many things that have happened.
Oh no, I'm always like, I love to podcast. We can keep talking. Like jiu-jitsu, you did like travel. Let's like round it up with like Europe. So you spent some time in Europe.
Yeah, it was just a short trip. It was my first time like venturing off by myself though. So it was like a big deal in that way, I guess. And I picked a bunch of soccer matches that I wanted to go see and just traveled around to see the soccer game.
How was that?
Yeah. It was really fun. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
Just meeting people. And I was in a really dark place at that time. So there was a lot of time on trains, just staring out windows, just thinking about life, just thinking about what I wanted, crying like a weirdo on a train with sunglasses on. So it was really good for me. Yeah. So that was a cool trip.
And it's so weird because I also, after Korea, went to Spain and Barcelona for a while and spent time there. Yeah.
Barcelona was wild.
I know. Don't you feel like you were maybe lived there in another life?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I feel like I can't live there now. Like it's not the place for me now.
Okay.
I mean, it could be in the future. You never know. Yeah.
I cried also, but I didn't want to leave.
I know. It's a hard place to leave. It is beautiful there. And the partying's insane. The beaches are insane. The architecture, everything there is over the top. Like it's a wonderful, wonderful city.
It's hard to realize that like some people were born and grew up in that paradise and that's their reality.
That's just their life. They're like, oh, I want to go somewhere else. Like,
yeah.
But I don't think they do. I don't think they leave. They're like, why would I be here?
Nobody leaves. They go on little trips and then they talk that trip sucked.
Yeah. They're like, let's go home.
That's what they do. I had a girl on my podcast last week, and she's from a small southern town in France.
Ooh, nice.
She was saying when she was little, she's always like, one day I will leave this little town and go to see the world. And then she realized when she went to see the world that her little town was the best. Like, I want to go back.
Yeah. What town is it?
Oh, I don't know. It's near Marseille.
Oh, okay. So like right in the south on the beach or something along is that the French Riviera? Yeah, I guess so. I went there. It was really nice.
Yeah. So can you see yourself ever going like living abroad again?
Yeah, definitely. I really plan to move to Mexico as soon as possible.
Right.
And I don't know. We'll see where
right.
I'm really bad at making definite plans. So I usually just leave it up to chance. But I do have kind of a cutoff. I have a few months where I'm just going to see how things go. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to make my move. And wherever that ends up being, like I want to go somewhere. I've been waiting to leave for far too long now. And I feel pretty trapped right now. So it's time. I'm like setting everything up so that it'll be a smooth transition wherever I end up.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's do a podcast again in the summertime.
Oh, that'd be fun. Yeah.
And we'll reconnect.
Yeah. All the tan great.
Oh, I know. I'm like, everything will be better when I have a tan soon.
Oh my gosh, living in Busan, it's the best for that because you can just go down to the beach every day,
I know.
tan.
I will.
And then everyone says, "Why are you tanned?"
Do they say that?
Yeah, they'd be like, "Why did you get a tan? It doesn't look good." I'm like, "Oh,
Really?
tan, yeah."
I go, okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's stop the podcast. Let's just have a weird black sheep ending on our podcast.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll do it again. I feel like let's do it again because it'll be more interesting in a couple months. We're both at and different things. Thank you so much for doing this, Linden. Guys,
hey, thanks for having me.
Be brave. Be a cool chick.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.